So we blew up a Syrian airbase. I don't think that Mattis and Tillerson and McMaster's were all thinking about the day of the attack and they could just wake up the next morning to everything being peachy. They had to think of the long-term repercussions of this, some of which could be the Russians starting to bolster Syrian air defenses. It could be the Iranians starting to carry out attacks on U.S. satellites overseas. It could be the activation of Hezbollah cells against U.S. interests in third-party countries, just like they've done to the Israelis after tit-for-tat attacks on the Iranian nuclear scientists that were assassinated throughout the 2000s and early 2010s. So this action wasn't just about the U.S. punishing Assad for the use of chemical weapons. This was a literal shot across the bow to Assad and his backers in both Russia, Hezbollah, and Iran, that should any of these actors act out of turn, not just by the use of chemical weapons, but by doing something that contradicts the stated U.S. national security policy of the disallowance of unconventional arms, and even going beyond that, threatening America's stability to act in the region. This was an action that I think was required, and it should have been done much sooner. They shouldn't have waited until there was a sarin gas attack. As Elliot Abrams wrote in the Weekly Standard this morning, this is the day that Trump actually began as commander-in-chief for the United States military.
You know what? I cannot name one single way in which American interests have been strengthened, American allies strengthened, or American enemies weakened. And in fact, strangely, you seem to have just listed a bunch of ways in which America has possibly provoked retaliation. You and I disagree here, and that's fine. It's a good debate. I have one last question for you. The most disturbing of all was a comment made yesterday by Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, that didn't use the phrase regime change, but implied that Bashar Assad himself may have no future leading the country. That's quite something to say. That's tantamount, almost, to a declaration of war. I'm sure the Russians, who have thousands of troops and serious assets in the country, will have a different point of view. But even if we're going back to Hillary Clinton-style regime change like we had in Libya, who on earth does anyone think would be a better president of Syria? Is there a single name that you can list of a person, of the Syrian George Washington we've all been looking for? Or even a party? If you can't name a person, and only one person can be the president, is there a single person you can name who's less bad or better than Assad, who should be the leader of that country?
We know that even within the Assad family itself, there's disagreements between the head of the 4th Division, Assad's brother-in-law. We know that there's Walid Muallim, the Syrian foreign minister, who has disagreed with Assad on record. And we also know that a large catchment of Assad's backing is the Syrian Sunni middle class and those who run the bazaars in Damascus and prior to that in Aleppo that may be a more viable leader. Let's not forget that the history of Syria prior to the rise of Hafez al-Assad in 71 was junta after junta, coup after coup. The rise of the modern Ba'ath Party under Michel Aflaq in that country came through a military revolt. And I think that the structure of that regime does not all lay in the Bashar al-Assad personality or in his ability to keep the entire country together.
So you're saying another family member
that may be able to replace him, but that's not what this is about. It's about declaring the country formerly known as Syria into what it should actually be: a Shia Alawi region, a Sunni-led region, and a Kurdish-led region. And I think that that diplomatic process of saying Assad can't control all of Syria, but he may be able to go into the cantons of the western part of the country is what Tillerson was referring to.
Hey, if you like that, sign up for my show every day. Click on the screen to subscribe.